Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today for today's webcast. This is Brian Lewandowski. I'm the support manager and one of the application engineers at CTC, and I'm going to show you today a little bit about our Civil Express tools, our Corridor Productivity Pack. We will be taking questions during the webcast. Feel free to submit those in the interface there. If they're very lengthy questions, I'll address them after the fact through email or a phone call. But if they're quick questions, I'll be glad to address them right now. So please feel free to submit those. We kind of have a smallish group today, so we should certainly be able to take those questions as they come in. As always, please fill out evals afterwards. We always like to get feedback from you guys. So with that, let's jump into things a little bit. The Corridor Productivity Pack, that's what we're talking about. This is a pack of subassemblies that CTC has and has available for purchase. It's a set of subassemblies for use in Civil 3D corridors, and just a number of things about them I'd like to highlight, and then we'll jump into Civil 3D and I will show you some of them in action. So the goal with some of this is to make real powerful subassemblies that were easy to use, that would allow you to create corridors that were a lot more dynamic. Instead of having to use a ton of separate little generic links or some really kind of twisted backwards ways to get your corridor to build the way you want, we're trying to simplify that. So that makes it less tedious for more advanced users, and it makes it easier to learn for those newer users. And some of the benefits we get out of this are we get better looking cross-sections, more realistic cross-sections. We're still having to do that in most plan sets we put out these days, and we've honestly probably made some sacrifices to the appearance of our cross-sections based on some of the subassemblies that we are dealing with. So we want to alleviate some of that, allow you to show your cross-sections in any way you want. And so with better cross-sections also means better quantities. And what these subassemblies are subassembly composer items. So you buy this pack from us. It's not a static entity, but you can take it, you can make a few adjustments in the composer to make it work to your liking. So very flexible in that way. So a little bit more about them. They're really built to more realistic geometry than perhaps some of the out-of-the-box ones. We're trying to address that. And so an example on the right here, you see this is this happens to be the Mindot Curb one that we've made, and there's curb styles over here, and we can just go through and we can select the curb type and it'll flip the dimensions for us. So pretty cool stuff there. Certainly slopes on our sub-base material here representing actual material laid down. Customizable codes is a big thing. Once you really get into corridor modeling and you're trying to dictate quantities and the way sections label and different things like that, the coding, be it point, link, or shape code, starts to make quite a bit of difference. And so for this one, for example, you've seen just a couple codes that we've decided to customize. This is the inside vertical. I'll show you how this might work. This is to control things like the display of this inside vertical link in a cross-section. Do you want to see that or don't you? A lot of times you don't want to because the lane next to it has the same base material. So we've put in custom coding options where it makes sense, so you can tweak that to your display preference. These of course have full targeting capability and then some, so all sorts of different targeting that you are doing, be it surface, width, or elevation targets, all that stuff is built into these different subassemblies. And there's detailed help files, so to know how to use these, we've provided nice detailed help files. So what comes in the CPP, the Corridor Productivity Pack? There's actually 3 different versions. There's a Mindot focused one, there's an Imperial one, and a metric one. And most of them hold the same subassemblies with a few differences, like the Mindot one doesn't come with the general curb that we've created, but instead with the Mindot focused curb. Outside of that, they're mostly the same with the exception of the metric that has units for a meters-based project, obviously. So we have customers all over the world, so we have people asking for metric ones as well. So those options are available out there. Excuse me. All right, let's jump into Civil 3D then and take a look at some of this. I'm not going to be able to go through every single subassembly, but I want to highlight a few of them and then make some general comments and notes about some of the other ones in there, but we won't necessarily be able to demo every little feature of every subassembly. But the first one I want to talk about is the lane subassembly. This is the standard lane that we're going to use many times, regardless of what your project is. And this is one we call multi-layer lane, and this comes in all the packs. And some of the things I want to highlight, if I go ahead and pick on this thing, and I go to the properties of it, I have full super elevation capability, but I also have a number of things like the number of lifts. So it's at 2 right now. I can flip it to 3, and that's reflected down here. Okay. Perhaps it's just a concrete section, and I want to go to 1, and then I want to make that concrete section thicker. In my case, I have 2 courses of bituminous. You'll also notice a lot of coating options down here. This is that custom coating, and we've set this stuff to be all typical, you know, in terms of the coating nomenclature itself. It's coming from the out-of-the-box name, so you'll see top in here, you'll see datum, you see pave 1, 2, and 3, subbase, but you can always come in here and change it. And so where might you want to change some of this stuff? Well, here's this subassembly used in a corridor, and I'm right in cross-section editor here, or section editor rather. And you know, to me, one of these pain points, these kind of annoying areas, is like these vertical links, be it right at the center line or right here. Well, with custom coding, we can take both these subassemblies and we can go to the inside vertical links, and I can set the code to off. Okay. And now in my code set style, I just simply have the link titled code, or the link titled off, set to no display. And so if I rebuild my corridor, those inside links will no longer show. Same thing with the outside. We have that kind of control. So let me show you how you can really kind of adjust this stuff to your liking. So the outside vertical links, let's set that to off. And then of course, here's the curb. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a second. This has inside vertical links as well. We could set those to off. And if I rebuild my corridor, those links turn off. Okay, so it's all about giving you full control, full display control in your subassemblies to get what you're after. And that's just one of those little annoyances that you know, we just want to get rid of, or we've kind of decided we'll just deal with it. So a lot more flexibility there. So that's the multi-layer lane subassembly. All sorts of other custom coding in there that give you options for labeling or quantification, or you name it, it's in there. And it's fully super elevation supported as well, including the options for different pivot points. Let's look at another lane option we have, and I'm going to close out of this one, and I'm going to look at a different situation. So here's an assembly where we have a divided roadway, and we have a median in the middle. And many times what you have is one alignment and profile dictating the one side, and another alignment and profile dictating the other. Now, this is all one subassembly here, and in the median area, we have a median that kind of needs to float between those 2 inside curbs. So let's go to this corridor, look at it in section editor. And I've got some big vertical exaggeration here to really kind of display what we're after here. Let's back up a little bit. So I'm going to bring my assembly on the left side here, and we'll go to this divided roadway. And the subassembly I want to highlight here is this one right here. And this one is like that multi-layered lane one, with the exception of it being a link to mark point functionality. So it's linked to mark point so that it'll connect to the other side. So let me jump into subassembly properties here. We'll go to parameters. Another nice thing with our subassemblies is you've got full detailed help files. So what does this one do? This represents a lane that connects to a marked point subassembly. This is the median scenario. So it's like the lane. It gives you all that control with coding and everything. All that control with the number of lifts. In this case, I have 4 inches of concrete in there. But it behaves like a link to marked point. So if you don't know how that works, it's a simple subassembly that reaches out to connect to a marked point. So this is native functionality within the software. Here's a single point, and it's called marked point. And then in this subassembly, I simply need to specify in my properties what marked point I'm connecting to, MP01. So that's the name of that marked point over there. And what I get as a result is that median in the middle there. If you look above in the section editor right here, that will float in there. And when I have narrow medians, I want to run that base material right through. I can very easily do all that with one subassembly now. So real flexible. So 2 different lane options there. Let's take a look at another option, another subassembly here. This is one I'm pretty excited about. If we look over on the right side here, a lot of times what we have to do is we have to tie in at right-of-way. And we have to match in What about now? Can you guys hear me? Yes, now. Okay. I bumped the mute button on my headphones. I shouldn't do that. I'll know now not to mute. I'm learning. All I know is Civil 3D. I don't know how these headphones work. So, all right. Thanks for the patience. All right. Moving on here. So I'm not sure where I cut out. Looks like you guys were commenting a couple minutes ago. I'm showing you this subassembly right here. That's a sidewalk with outside boulevard and inside boulevard. And it allows me to target outside boulevard right out here. Okay. And so what I do is I target a feature line that represents the right-of-way line at existing grade. So that's this one right here. And if I go in here and I highlight this, you can see that being highlighted right out here. It's a feature line right there. Okay. And so again, if I toggle along here in my section editor, you again see that inside boulevard floating. And all I have to do is set one target, and then I can specify these widths. So just kind of a more visual, if I set this width of the outside boulevard to 4 feet, what you'd expect, so in assembly view it's a little odd, but out here what you'd expect is this outside boulevard to width or get wider, and then the inside boulevard should just float with it. And so that's what we get if I rebuild my corridor. That inside boulevard is floating. So a lot of options there for how you can use this thing. The main point of it is ease of use, and of course, again, this kind of stuff, sidewalk sub-base material, and it's just kind of sorting it out. It's figuring out how does it appear in that area. So I'm definitely excited about that one. I like how that one behaves. Let's go take a look at another one. We're going to go back to the other side of this corridor, and over here I have, this is the Mindot Curb with sidewalk. This is actually all one subassembly, and so there's quite a bit going on with this, and we put it all in one subassembly because there's a lot of interaction that happens. So for example, if let's go ahead and grab this, drag that over a little bit. So this is one subassembly. If I look at the properties of it, we've got quite a few options here. And so let's just do some of this switching around that I was talking about. So we have V-type curb. Automatically puts it in there, right? I have S-type. And then of course I have the different sizes available of those curb types and adjust it for me. So we're not dealing with those parameters A, B, C, D, E, F, right? Who remembers all that stuff? What I care about is curb type, set it to what I want, and I'm done with it. And then the interaction I'm talking about, why do we put these together for this scenario? Well, sometimes it's nice to have it separate like in my previous scenario, but other times you want interaction in this area. So if I go and grab my inside boulevard, and I set this to 2, that's all going to tie in here, right? And so I need interaction between all that. So let's go ahead and rebuild the corridor and see that reflected in the section editor. So all that interaction is there. It's all kind of one animal. Some other options with this subassembly. I can pick it, and we have this common fill area right here. Some folks want to quantify that. Some folks want to show that. Okay, we have an option here, calculate common. I can simply turn this off, say no, and it looks like this. And of course, if I rebuild my corridor, that doesn't show in that area. It's a lot of control options. Again, like the simpler curb, we have options for slope on the outside of the base material here. We have extension. Everything that you'd expect and a lot more is all built into that subassembly. So that one comes with the Mindot pack. Pretty excited about that one. So a few of the other ones here. I showed you this sidewalk with boulevard from right-of-way. That's where we're basically building backwards from right-of-way. There's also one that's just sidewalk with boulevard. It has the 2 boulevards and the sidewalk together, and you simply target as you would from center line out, and it behaves in a more traditional manner that way. And then what we've also done is, because we're trying to make this stuff real flexible, we build a lot of custom subassemblies like this, and it's always for certain jurisdictions or cities or counties, and everyone's got a lot of kind of different nuances of how they want to show that stuff, but we're trying to make stuff be flexible and make the CPP work for a lot of people. And so all the generic links that you're used to, you find them on the generic tab. If I go to my tool palettes here, and I go to the generic tab, anyone who's used corridors to any extent has used these in many different ways. But how many of us have used link slope to surface and simply want a depth to our subassembly? Okay, so there's link slope to surface. We've recreated that link slope to surface. That's this one right here. I have it attached out here. If I look at the properties of it, so same basic parameters, cut slope, fill slope, but of course I have depth now. And what I also really care about is the coding, right? I want to be able to turn off vertical links. I want to be able to quantify things differently. So all those options are in there. So in a nutshell, what we've done is we've taken a lot of these generic links, we've given depth to all of them, and we've given full control on the custom coding. So if the Mindot package isn't quite right for you and you want a more flexible set, perhaps you go for the Imperial one, and with that, as well as the Mindot one, you'll get this whole set of generic links. So a simple link width and slope with custom coding and a depth is available in there. Right here, this is a simple link width and slope with full custom coding. All kinds of options that you have with it there. So we jump back to the list here. The multi-layer lane with mark point, that's the one I showed you. We also have just the basic link to mark point. That's a generic link. So all sorts of flexibility here. We're kind of working on a few others that we'd like to add to this that we find a lot of people are after. We certainly welcome any kind of input you guys have, but what I'd encourage you to do is to go to our website, CTC Express Tools. We built out a new site here, and we have a whole page dedicated to Civil 3D products and our corridor productivity pack here. And so there's the pricing. It's $700 for the whole pack. Okay, that's not a per user thing. Your company buys this, multiple users can use it, right? We're talking hundreds of dollars here, dirt cheap. And all this stuff is made for you. Every one of these sub-assemblies in here, so you can go here, see the 3 different versions, then you can click on the link, it'll bring you down, give you a description of it, show you what it does, and you can even open up the help file to see the nuances of the behavior of that subassembly. And then up at the top here, there's also a demo video where I go through those things in more detail, similar to kind of what I'm showing you live today. So lots of options you have with it there. And again, these are just subassemblies made from the composer. So these aren't lockdown things where if we haven't made it exactly the way you want, you're stuck with it. No, you can take it into Subassembly Composer, do a couple tweaks to it. You don't need to be a whiz in the Composer to do that. Make a couple tweaks to it and make it behave the way you want. So a lot of options certainly with it there. Some of the stuff we're working on is looking at a utility that allows enterprise distribution of this kind of stuff. Because right now the PKT files that come out of Subassembly Composer, they're a little tricky to kind of share across a whole network. You can do it with some scripting and a number of things, but it's kind of a pain in the neck. So we're looking at making some tool that would just come with this productivity pack that would allow you to do real easy enterprise distribution of this stuff. So I encourage you guys to go check out our website, look at those in more detail. Our Sim Project Suite is on there as well. Just want to mention a couple other things, some new events we've got coming up, some other webcasts. Some general troubleshooting of Autodesk installs and deployments, be it fatal errors, you name it. One of our technicians is going to be doing that. We've got a Civil 3D specific one on Civil 3D view frame groups and how those behave and ways to work with those, and kind of tips and tricks in getting around some of the shortcomings of those tools. And then some planned production tips and tricks in Civil 3D. Ways to really leverage those styles to get your construction docs to behave the way you want. So with that, thanks a lot for attending. Just wanted to give you guys a little introduction of the CPP. But please let me know any other questions you have about it. We'd love to get your guys' feedback on it. If you're interested in purchasing it, you can do it right on our website, or you can call in, talk to your account rep. They'll get you set up with it as well. So again, this will be posted to YouTube. Feel free to check it out there. After the fact, show it to your coworkers. And that's all I have for you guys. So thanks a lot for attending, and have a good afternoon.